In, what are your takeaways so far from the receivers?
Yeah, I'm really pleased. I'm really pleased. I mean, I think we're all, Coach Swinney said we're back in business, and I think, today was tough. We were a little banged up today, but overall we've been really healthy. And the guys are flying around, making plays. I think offensively, with some of the new concepts that we have, I think there's excitement, from the guys. They're having fun. They're excited to get out here and make plays, and they're doing that. I think in our last scrimmage we had 11 big plays, and did some good things, did some bad things. But man, we're really making some big plays downfield, and I'm seeing a lot of improvement, a lot of excitement, a lot of energy. So I'm overall really excited about what we got going on.
Any guys in particular that have stood out?
Yeah, I mean, I think with Joe, I just was encouraged with talking to him, and he's hardly missed a rep. I mean, he's healthy, and I think this is the most technically sound and God has been, which is exciting. I'm not having to correct nearly as much, and so that's great for your senior, your leader, your boundary receiver. And so he's been consistent. He's making plays. He's leading. This is the best he's led, the most verbal he's been on the field. And in the meeting room, he's great. He's like another coach that can help me out. So he's been everything I've hoped for up to this point. Bo Collins is a pro. I mean, you hear that all the time. I mean, Bo is he's probably the most consistent guy we have overall, and he's probably had, I'd say, probably the most big plays up to this point, and just so consistent. I don't have to watch him in practice. I can focus on the other guys because I can expect him to know what to do and to perform at a high level. And so great energy. And so he's a good one. Spectre. I mean, how about him coming back after everything? And so Brandon's done a great job of playing that slot. With EJ being out, I was going to have EJ playing the slot a little bit, and also some two. Okay, but Spec, man, that's a great position for him. And so he's getting a ton of reps. He was going to be kind of rolling in, having to kind of slowly transition into spring. All of a sudden, EJ is out, and hey, all right, Spec, let's go. And I don't think we really expected, him to be able to push through and get the amount of reps he's gotten. And so I think we're thrilled to see him with the speed, with the quickness, the short area burst. Is what he does. Solid pass catcher, very natural pass catcher. And so those guys, kind of rolling out there first have done a really good job. Adam Randall, I mean, everyone's, raving about him, and for good reason, because he doesn't look like a freshman. Physically, you can see that. But out there on the field, he's a quick learner, comes from a great program at Myrtle Beach High School, and very similar concepts to what we run. And so all it is for him is really new terminology. I mean, he's done these concepts before. And so he's making plays. He knows where to be, and I think for him, you just see a big physically imposing guy that uses his frame, using God's gift to his ability, and he's a great pass catcher, very natural pass catcher, and so that's been great. Dakari is doing good things. And I think with him, challenging him because of a couple guys, dropping, with Troy being out a little bit. With EJ being out, he's had to play 9 and 2. So he's playing the boundary, he's playing the field. And so he's having to learn a lot. And that can be a little bit, he's still a young guy learning. But he's done really well. I think the last 4 practices have been probably his best. Didn't have the greatest start. But man, Dakari's done really well and bounced back from a little bit of a rocky start. And with Troy getting back out there, he's doing some good things. I can go through the whole group. I mean, I'm seeing some really good things in development from all these guys. And I think that, again, like I said before, there's excitement, there's competition. I mean, it's an honor to play receiver at Clemson and to run out there first. And I think this is the most I've challenged the guys, and just, hey man, understand, like, this is the standard. We've set a standard at Clemson, all right, and we're going to get back to that. All right, it's going to take work out here in practice before it shows up on Saturday. So we're doing some good things.
Talk about Brandon Spectre. I mean, how challenging was it just for him mentally last year? Just he obviously has some things beyond his control, and trying to work him through that.
Yeah, I think it was challenging mentally, but I think if you ask him, it's probably one of the better things that's happened to him overall for his psyche. I think he grew a lot. I see a more relaxed, confident Spec than what was before the injury. And so I feel like he's in a good headspace, and I feel like he's more confident and having more fun. So you ask him, that year away probably's made him a better player. It's made him a better person. He's told me that, and so I'm excited for him.
It's just perspective, you think?
Perspective, yeah, perspective. I think he kind of, grew up a little bit. I mean, I think he, went through some tough challenges and some adversity, and kind of found out who he was a little bit more, and I think he grew his faith, is what he shared with me. And so that's a cool thing. So he's grown in, I think, a lot of areas.
What's he look like physically, just coming back this spring?
Yeah, I mean, he's got great speed. People kind of forgot, because we went through mat drills before we had spring practice, and everyone was like, man, that's what they were talking about, because before he got hurt, he was flying around everywhere, and so he's just he's got springs in his legs. He can run, and change directions and get open, in those short areas, which is what you want in the slot. And so he's picked up the playbook well, getting open, using some good technique, manipulating a DB, and that kind of stuff you got to do in the slot. It's man coverage, but a lot of time it's understanding zone and grass and how to get open, and he's doing a good job of, he knows it, but he's learning that more.
Is there some Renfro in his game?
Yeah, I guess you could. Somewhat. Renfro was, I don't know. Renfro didn't even think about it. He just kind of did it. So kind of similar skill set when it comes to the explosion. The short area quickness.
Can you elaborate some? I think you said some new concepts and had guys excited. Can you just elaborate some on that?
Yeah, I think with what typically kind of heading into spring, you look at what you did in the fall and what you rep most, and you say, okay, we actually repped this more than another concept. Let's install that earlier, maybe, or we with Coach Streeter, taking charge, and Coach Richardson stepping in as the passing game coordinator, we had to get to work. It wasn't. We had to see, okay, who do we want to be? And Coach Streeter, having to call the plays he believes in, and so taking some concepts last year and tweaking them, all right, and feeling really good about that. Totally new concepts we've never run before, where we are attacking areas of the field that we probably haven't attacked before as often, I should say, and. So yeah, I think there's just a ton of excitement from the guys because they see it, right? We installed some stuff, and then they got to do it out here and realize, wow, okay, this is new, and we are kind of attacking something we haven't done before. So that's been good.
Anything else studied in particular offenses, or anything you studied to try to?
Yeah, we studied a few. I think with Coach Streeter, kind of. Having been a coordinator before, taking what he's done in other places and using those, but also kind of merging some concepts. And it's not difficult. It's football, and everybody's running the same stuff for the most part. And so, putting wrinkles on some former stuff and dressing it up with motions or formations, and I think that's. And what's crazy is it's probably a little more simple in some ways. Where the guys aren't having to think as much, which is really good, because guys, listen, we have the athletes. We're always going to have the athletes. Let's go play fast. Let's know what to do and play fast. So it's been good.
It seemed like there was a shortage of downfield big plays last year, as compared to recent years.
Mm-hmm.
And is there more of a concerted effort to maybe stretch the field a little bit?
Sure. Yeah, there was a shortage in like every area last year, right? So we know that, and but man, it's. We have the guys, and we want the opportunity, and we're seeing that out here. We're taking advantage of them and making more of those plays, and I think they're hungry, to kind of get back to doing that. Making those down the field plays and those big plays and scoring touchdowns and having fun, and that's what a receiver loves to do, right? So yeah. That's an area of emphasis for sure.
How frustrated was it for you last year with all the injuries? It just seemed like every time you guys get a little positive, you take 2 steps back.
Yeah, it was frustrating for my guys. Just having to move guys around, and maybe play them in some areas that maybe didn't suit them in their skill set as well, you know. But listen, you have to play your best guys, and they understand that, you know, because I want to see them perform well. I want to see them be successful and accomplish their dreams. So that was frustrating for them and for me. And you can't help injuries, you know. I learned a ton from that whole situation. I mean, I failed in plenty of areas that, you know, I had to swallow that pill, you know. And as a young coach that's learning, you know, the profession every day, you know, man, I really got a crash course last year, and I'm so eager. And I was so eager kind of heading into you know, mat drills and spring practice to get back out here. Like, I just want to get back on the grass and let's fix some stuff, you know, like, because I've learned a lot, you know, and so there's a lot of excitement and I think a lot of humility from some of that failure. But man, eager and hungry and excited to go and improve it.
Is the recruiting coordinator role something that you put a bug in Dabo's ear, and he just kind of
No.
surprised you one day with it?
No, I kind of was just like, here you go. This is your new job. You know, here's your new title, and so that wasn't my idea. You know, but I think it fits me well. You know, and I enjoy recruiting. I really do, and it's something that this is my first spring ever to go on the road and recruit. I've never gone on the road and recruited in the spring, you know, because of COVID. And so that'll be new and exciting to meet my area coaches. I mean, I've been on the phone with my area coaches, but I've never met hardly any of them in person. Some of the South Carolina coaches at the Myrtle Beach clinic we had, but like, I'm just excited to get out there and get on the road and develop relationships and, you know, become a Robbie Caldwell, you know, and it's going to take a while, you know, but that's exciting for me. And just in this role, I mean, we have such a great recruiting staff, you know, Jordan Sorrells and Josh Wall and Zach Fulmer and the rest, Ty Clements and the rest of them. We have a phenomenal staff, and I'm just there to help them, you know, in any way I can, and they help me a ton, you know, but, you know, be a liaison with the high school coaches and, you know, give ideas to help us improve in recruiting, be creative and have fun with it. And whenever people come on campus, man, they feel like this is a special place. They have been, but continue that.
What are maybe some of the angles and ideas that you hope to incorporate or already had started incorporating as kind of being the overseer of all things recruiting?
Yeah, I think you know, one thing I'll share. I can't give my ideas away, you know, but you know, one thing I think is doing a good job of you know, and Coach Sweeney's big on this, but area, you know, your area guys. Like in this day and age, you have a lot of position recruiting. Right, like I'm just going to focus on receivers, and that's important. But like, man, the high school coaches, you need to have those relationships with your high school coaches where, hey, I have a linebacker, you know, in my area that's a top guy we're recruiting. Well, I need to be recruiting him as well, but also talking to my coach and being another person that's involved in that, right? And that's big, you know. And I think that the high school coaches appreciate that. And then, you know, just having a lot of organizational skills with staying on top of the recruiting and how you're communicating with your guys and the topics of conversation, and that's important, you know, because the guys get tired of, hey, how you doing? You know, you need to have, you know, we have so much ammo to sell. Let's be reminded of that, and let's package it well, and, you know, and be consistent with messaging, you know, and man, let's sell all that Clemson has. So that's going to be big.
In this day and age when people are so quick to offer, it seems like they offer earlier. How difficult is it to kind of adapt to the Dabo Sweeney, you know, method of patience to where, you know, you've got the Georgias and the Alabamas have 50 and 70 offers out to, you know, sophomores already. Yeah. You guys have one. So
yeah, it can be somewhat challenging, but once the recruits understand our philosophy and then it's explained to them, they can appreciate it. And again, high school coaches appreciate it, right? Because, you know, Coach Sweeney, I'm not going to go through, listen, I have a lot of Sweeneyisms in my mind of what I could say and why we don't, and I'm not going to repeat them, all right? But I agree. I mean, I believe in what he says. And, but man, the guys can appreciate that. And I think too, it's a long time to recruit a guy that young, right? Well, we can talk, we can have a relationship, but man, whenever we offer at Clemson, we're all in, right? Now we're going to shoot. Let's go, man. Let's go get this guy. Let's go land him. And they feel that. They're not just another dude, right? They're special, okay? It's special to get an offer from Clemson. And so, Yeah, it is what it is. And I think Coach when he says, hey, listen, blame me. All right. It's, hey, listen, hey, I'd love to offer you. You're an offer guy. All right, but we got to wait. We got to wait a little bit. Your time's coming. All right, let's get a 4th semester transcript. Let's make sure you can drive it, right? All that stuff. So that's what we do, and it's been successful for us. I mean, we've gotten the guys. I mean, golly, you look at our roster. Seriously, I mean, we've gotten the guys that we needed, that fit us. Plain and simple.
When you say you feel like you failed in some certain areas last year, what are some of those areas where you feel like
Yeah, I mean, just in the way in coaching and communicating, a couple of things, teaching, kind of reevaluating how I taught a number of things. I think for me is learning the balance of, challenging your guys, and loving them at the same time, in that relationship. And, some of the glaring things and some of the emphasis we have is, okay, perimeter blocking, okay? That was an issue at times. And again, I think some of that kind of comes back to personnel and having some guys in some areas that maybe they didn't suit them as well because we had to, but that's not an excuse. For me, in that emphasis, well, I've made that more of an emphasis on the field and my individual drill work. I've made that more of an emphasis in my meeting room and spending more time and showing them more looks and really making sure we feel good about our perimeter blocking, our spot blocking, right? Where you don't have a defender necessarily, you have a spot and knowing coverage and who to pick up depending on coverage and who shows up to that spot, right? So those are kind of things that I've really worked on, that's one of the main things. But yeah, I mean, I've had to reevaluate a number of things and then implement them. And so that's why I was so excited to get back out here.
Do you expect Antonio to come in and try to compete right away?
Oh yeah,
to get the TD?
Oh yeah, I really do. I mean, he's going to have that opportunity. He knew that. That's why he committed to us. He wants to play early and he'll compete for that. And he's got the mindset. He's very confident. He's got the skill set. And he's a guy that we knew. I mean, I was on for a while and stayed in touch for a while, and thinking that, hey, this could happen. And I'm happy it worked out that way. I think we got the right guy. I really do. And so in the return game, he's a natural, as a punt returner especially. So he'll be able to compete for that as well. So yeah, he's going to have an opportunity.
How was the leadership and camaraderie of the room, the want to, and the drive, and maybe that relates to the perimeter blocking some. You mentioned maybe some of those guys were in uncomfortable positions, but just curious how much of that was stemmed from want to or maybe lack thereof in some cases.
Yeah, I mean, most blocking isn't that hard. I mean, it's technique and understanding, right, of concept, where the ball's being run, outside run, wide zone, or a bubble, to the fullback or the running back, right, and kind of where that ball's, getting wrong. Yeah. Understanding concept is important, but really it's just being a grown man. It's being angry, right? It's a violent sport, right? And so I blocked a lot at Grisham. I blocked more than I caught passes. That's what I did, right? And let CJ, Jacoby, and all of them have fun. But so that's those more babies. And so for me, it's just that challenge. Hey man, you got to be angry to do your job well. You have to dominate the man across from you, and so. Yeah, I mean, that's something that we've talked about a lot, and we have worked good on good with our defense in half line drills, perimeter blocking drills, which it favors the defense because they know it screens and all. I mean, you got Barrett Carter barreling downhill at you, right? And you're trying to block the spot, and you can't really attack. You have to kind of position block a little. That's not easy, all right? But man, it's you have to have that dog to you, and that has been created out here. You have to have it in practice to win the drill, right? And so putting them in that situation, I'll say this: we have put them more than ever before. We have put them in that situation in practice because we know that was a weak part of our perimeter game, is, and again, you lose an Amari Rogers, that hurts you, right? But still, we have to clean some of that up. So we have done working on good, and then if the defense is available and they're working on their own things, we as an offense have done half-line drills and screen drills and blocking, and so we're really, we have so many images now from practice to coach off of, more than ever before. So you're going to see better perimeter blocking. You're going to see more yak, all right, when we do throw the outlet screens. So I believe that.
I know that each staff member has their own positions that they recruit, their own areas they recruit. Can you just kind of educate me as what recruiting coordinator, what is kind of your main thing with that title as far as overseeing these guys in their areas?
Yeah, I think for me it's kind of just prep as we go out for the spring, making sure that they're hitting their areas. Like South Carolina, we're going to hit every school, right? We're not going to miss one school in South Carolina. Okay, and so making sure that everybody's hitting South Carolina at some point in the spring evaluation period. Not only that, but also if it's outside of your area, position recruiting, right? You got to recruit your position this day and age. So going outside your area to go and get your top quarterback or lineman, and so having a plan and helping them in that. And again, we have a phenomenal staff, but keeping that in mind, the forefront of their mind. And I think again, just like being the liaison with high school coaches. So for me, it's emails, it's text messages, it's staying in touch with those guys as consistent as I can. And that's primarily it for the spring, I would say.
Is it more work than you anticipated with all the calls, the constant communication? And everything?
I mean, no, I kind of anticipated what it is because I've seen it done. And so it's nothing that I wasn't expecting. So.
And somebody mentioned they thought on your very first trip as recruiting coordinator, it might have been a speaking engagement or talk to recruit that your plane crash landed in Georgia.
But that was before I wasn't the coordinator at that time.
Okay.
No, that was my first ever plane flight recruiting, and I was the only one on board. And like the system shut down, they flew blind. It was and there was very little visibility, with the fog, and they were sweating. I could tell the pilots were anxious. That's not a good feeling. All right, but we made it.
So was that in Georgia?
Yeah.
And was that you were just on a recruiting trip, but you were here, but you weren't recruiting coordinator?
I wasn't coordinator at that time.
Okay.
Yeah, it was over a year ago.
Gotcha.
The perimeter blocking, is that difficult in general just to get receivers to buy into just because they sign you expect to catch passes?
Well,
you look for that in recruiting as well.
Yeah, that's a good question. I really do, and that's one of the, recently had a guy come through and had to ask his coach, hey, is he a track guy that plays football, or is he a football player that runs track? For me, I'm looking for tough guys. Like that's one of the main things that I'm looking for is, are you a tough athlete? I mean, you have to be. And so for me, that's something that should be innate. And so it is, but I think too, sometimes that can be developed a little bit, right? I mean, you don't want to just totally, you watch film and it's a 5-star dude that's making great plays and maybe isn't as interested in blocking. Well, their high school coach probably isn't making him. They don't make that an emphasis. They let him go and score touchdowns, and they say, hey, take a play off in the run game. That happens all the time. And so, you have to have that conversation with the receivers coach at that school and say, hey, listen, explain kind of how you coach blocking. And if they're not getting taught, well, then you can't hold that guy accountable as much. But you do in recruiting, you want to know that, they love football, they love the game, and they want to be physical. That's mainly what you do in receiver. You block more than you catch passes. So you better love it or learn to love it pretty quick.
Do you use like former players film and say go back and like watch T. Higgins and some of the blocks he did when he was here? Still does in the NFL? Do you use that?
Yeah, we do. I mean, because whenever we have install, like whenever we're putting in new plays, it shows up all the time. We'll go back and we'll pull from old plays from prior years. Just watch Hunter Renfrow run a great route, and that's how you do it, and we'll go back and we'll have the image of this is the way it's done, and so it shows up for those guys to see those former players be physical and make those plays or blocks.
You said you learned a lot last year. Are there any big takeaways? Anything that stands out more than others as far as what you kind of want to do differently moving forward?
That's a good question. Not really. I think I answered that earlier. For me, it's I mean, I think, like I said, there's a lot of of excitement and eagerness to get back out there and to do my job well and to get the guys ready and to have fun doing it.
Was the perimeter blocking and I guess the lack of dog last year, was it a surprise to you once the season started, or was it something that you're like, yeah, I kind of was worried about this going into it?
We had some issues in fall camp a little bit that showed up. But yeah, I mean, it was something that became challenging, you know, and really had to clean up, you know, and get right, you know, during the year. And I think if you watch our progression, they got better. They really did. And that was exciting. I mean, I showed them. I mean, and I stayed off social media because none of the offensive coaches would want to get on social media. It wasn't very helpful. All right. But I would hear from our players, you know, and they were down because of what was said on social media, you know, and I try to tell them, hey, stay off. It's not helping you either. All right. Only read the good stuff if you want, you know, but don't be searching for the bad. That's not helping you. But yeah, they you know, we had to challenge them, you know, and I got challenged, you know. I mean, and so it was a tough pill to swallow, but it had to be done, and you know, had to learn from it and grow and accept the challenge and not run away from it, you know, and they did. They responded, and we got better, you know, and thank goodness we got some backs that could tote the rock, and we helped them, you know, and so yeah, we improved toward the end of the year.
With Adam Randall, in addition to just being physically built, what has he done to impress you? What have you seen from him?
Yeah, he's made some down the field plays. I told him, hey man, it's not going to get easier. You're going against, you know, no disrespect, you're not going against the first team corners because we have some guys out. I said, let's remember that those dudes in green jerseys that aren't practicing right now, they will be back out here. All right, so like, don't be too happy. Like, I mean, good job. That's awesome. You're doing some good things, right? But I'm trying to keep them grounded and keep them working. It's not that easy. All right, let's stay committed. You know, and keep working on our craft because he has to get better. I mean, he's got to get a lot better. I mean, he's a senior in high school. He's a mid-year, right? And so don't get me wrong. Everyone's saying some awesome things about him, but some of those big plays have come against walk-ons. So like that's for me. Like, don't read your press clippings. All right. So let's understand that you're going to have, you know, some dudes, all right, lining up against you because he's going to help us. He's going to play early. All right. So hey, it's not easy. In that boundary, there's less grass. All right. You gotta play fast and play physical. And I think for him is you know, his conditioning. You know, physical conditioning precedes anything else as a wideout. All right. Physical conditioning precedes anything else because if I'm not a physically conditioned receiver, then I'm a weak receiver. All right. If I can't run downfield multiple times in a row and make plays, and finish plays, you can't help us. So you have to be in shape and it starts in practice. So we challenge them a good bit and finish them, you know, run after catch and chasing the ball, you know, all the time and not loading them. And that's big because it's going to help you become a better, you know, pass catcher down the field. I mean, you know, having the lungs to do that consistently. So that's something that's going to be that I've challenged him on. He's a big joker. Well, he runs around sometimes like a big joker. All right, and he gets tired. All right, and so he knows that too. Again, he's a young guy, and this is a high pace, high energy. You know, it's new for him. So he, you know, that's an area that he's improving. But man, he's making down the field plays. I think he's knowledgeable. He's a quick learner. He's got a you know, quick trigger in the meeting room with his answers. I mean, he's quick to respond to questions. Quiz him all the time in front of all the guys, and he'll answer them most of the time correctly. So, I mean, he's a good one.
Coach, have you talked about what you want to see from Ngata? Got here a little bit late.
Yeah, I was saying that he's been the most consistent he's been, and technically sound. I'm not having to correct a whole lot with him. And he's making plays. I mean, he's staying healthy. He's on the field. Like, you know, hasn't missed hardly a rep. Got banged up early on in spring and like came right back. I mean, he's, you know, finished. It was a nasty. I mean, they're calling for a trainer and like missed a couple snaps and he was back out there and pushed through. And that's the thing. Like, you can't, you know, it's tough when you have these Ferraris at wideout, right? Like, you know, golly, everything has to be just right sometimes. That's not football. Like, you have to be able to play well when you're not 100%. And so playing through some pain, right? And so these guys are pushing, and he's one that's doing that, and he's healthy and strong, and I think too what's been good is he's probably the most coachable he's been. You know, challenging him on some things. Oh man, he listens. He's like, okay, I got you. It makes sense. So that's, and you know, this is his last shot. I mean, hey, you know, this is your last go around. Let's make it your best, and he feels that, and he's doing well.
He has a new perspective now, doesn't he?
I would say, yeah, definitely.
Have you seen enough out of Stellato as far as just being healthy to kind of know what you have?
Yeah, I mean, he's got, when you watch him catch a football, that ball doesn't move much. I mean, he's got really strong hands, which we knew early on. You know, the problem with Troy has been he showed up injured, and then he missed a lot of reps. All right, and so as a young freshman, especially not if you're not a mid-year enrollee and you're getting here in the summer and you're missing all those reps, it's hard to play early because you have to know concepts, and so you got to be trusted to get out there, and and so for him, he knew that this was going to be a big spring for him to get the reps, okay, and to get comfortable with the offense, to be able to answer questions in the meeting room, and he's done a much better job of that. And then as far as out here on the field, I talked about his hands, very solid, speed. I think for him, he's had some injuries. Like right now, he has a little bit of a hamstring, and he came back today, and he was in green. But he'll, hopefully be full go on Wednesday. We'll see. But because of that, you can't open up as well. And for again, a Ferrari speed guy, if you don't have those hamstrings, right, the horsepower ain't there. You feel it, and so trying to open up his stride link, really run, to his full potential is hard when you're not 100% healthy. But man, he can run, and so yeah, he's made a really good improvement.
Take one more if anybody has one.
Just going back to Ngata, we talked about the importance of kind of keeping a level head, or just kind of, staying even keeled when he was going through those injuries. What did you see from him, and what I guess did he contribute maybe from a leadership perspective when he was out?
Yeah, I mean, he's a guy that's been around, right? So he kind of knows what we're about, and it was hard. It's hard when you're injured or not contributing, when you're in the training room, when there's some meetings going on or whatever, because he's trying to get healthy, and so that was hard for him, and but man, he was able to step in and be there for the guys, and be another coach on the sideline. I think is something that I try to encourage him to do throughout the year. It's like, hey man, we need energy from you. You're not playing, but you're on the sideline with us. Like, we need energy from you, and so he would help. I mean, he would really help with that, and I think that maybe set him up. Just kind of dawned on me, but maybe set him up for now as a leader, a more vocal leader, because he couldn't play. He had to, just communicate with the guys. I think he's done a better job. I really do, of communicating and being a vocal leader. And I told him, I was like, hey man, when you're tired, you're selfish. You're just trying to make it through. I was like, hey man, speak up. All right, speak up in that moment. Don't be selfish. All right. And what happens is you hear yourself talk, that'll get you going too. So trying to keep that in mind for him to, hey man, we need a spark. You can be that spark for us. White House, man, you can be that spark. We'll make a play. All right. So they've been doing that.
All right. Thanks,
Thank you
Coach.
very much.